Facebook and Twitter. Bye for now.
20 years ago I started in regional Australia in Rock Vegas, Rockhampton. I'm from the bush, I know the regions, and we're telling those stories now, and we know those stories because we've lived them.
Every week, take a trip around Australia to find a fresh perspective on the way we live.
The King Brown bites first, asks questions later.
From every corner of the country, discover the experience of our everyday heroes.
There are Indigenous people who are living in Australia who are LGBTIQ.
These are the stories that connect and define us.
He tried to paint a very ideal picture of what life was like here.
They're our stories.
Australia-wide, Saturday on ABC News.
If you love a little thrash metal, then chances are you would have a Metallica record somewhere in your collection. Metallica are ranked as one of the most commercially successful bands of all time. So when their fans decided to help a cause, the response was pretty amazing. They sought to help the plight of Colombia's largest Indigenous community, known as the Wadu people. Living in a remote and impoverished part of the country, this ethnic group live below the poverty line, and the results are devastating, with childhood deaths on the rise. Cue Metallica fans who reached out on social media to other rabid metalheads, asking them to donate non-perishable food. And at a recent concert in Colombia, they collected a staggering 9 tonnes of food, which was later given to hunger-fighting charities for distribution. Now that deserves a standing ovation.
I run the strictest rehabilitation centre in the whole of Australia.
A former addict.
My way, the highway, here to change life, well, bugger off.
And his controversial program saving lives.
Very surprised. It's not often you hear people doing such big changes.
I see children from the next generation not having to go through what I went through, and that's what I get out of it.
Australian Story, tonight, ABC and iView.
Palm Sunday bombings, at least 45 killed after 2 Coptic churches are targeted in Egypt.
The United States to press Russia about Syria's use of chemical weapons.
I don't draw conclusions of complicity at all, but clearly they've been incompetent, and perhaps they've just simply been outmaneuvered by the Syrians.
And the oil's under the radar. Legendary band Midnight Oil makes a return to the stage with a secret free gig in Sydney.
And leading sports, it's the final round of the Masters, and this morning Adam Scott is chasing his second green jacket.
It's cyclones to the east and the west, but it's a low in the north that's ready to become a cyclone that will impact Australia.
And a very good morning to you. It is Monday, the 10th of April. I'm Michael Rowland.
And I'm Virginia Trioli, and you're watching News Breakfast. Well, the death toll from twin bombings at Coptic Christian churches in Egypt overnight has now grown to 45, with around 100 people injured. The blasts, timed to coincide with Palm Sunday services, ripped through churches in the cities of Tanta and Alexandria. In Tanta, 29 people died after an explosion inside the Church of St George.
Shortly afterwards in Alexandria, a suicide bomber set off a device outside a major cathedral after being stopped by security. 16 people have been killed in that attack. Christians in the region have been heavily targeted by Islamic militants in recent years. Very big story happening overnight. Let's go straight to our Middle East correspondent, Matt Brown, who joins us now from Beirut. Matt, good morning. Egypt clearly shaken by this attack.
Yeah, Michael, a terrible day. This is the start of the Holy Week for Christians, and in Egypt, you'd have to say that Palm Sunday has become a very black Sunday. That first attack at the church at Tanta is about 100 kilometres north of Cairo. They were underway with the ceremony. In fact, it was being broadcast live on a television channel when you can see the deacons singing, the ceremony beginning around 9 o'clock in the morning, according to witnesses, and then the transmission cuts out and there's just that horrible, sickening explosion. I think you're probably looking at it now. I mean, that is a terrible moment. The aftermath of that showed that the pews were covered in blood. The deacons raced out into the street covered in blood, and there was a lot of anger outside that this could be allowed to happen, because there have been warnings and an escalating campaign of violence against the Coptic community.
Utterly terrible to watch, Matt, and it is not the first time that Coptic Christians have been targeted in this way in Egypt.
Yeah, that's right. There has been an assassination campaign underway in the Sinai Peninsula, where the Islamic State group is especially strong, and where prior to their existence even there was a long-running insurgency.